Hey everyone, today we're zeroing in on that make or break moment in any project. You know, the point where all that careful risk planning has to stop being a plan and start being action. Let's jump right in.
So, picture this. You're deep in a project, everything is going smoothly, right on track, and then bam, it happens. A risk you actually planned for is no longer a what if. It's here. It's real. So, now what? What's your next move? That's exactly the moment we're going to unpack.
Okay, let's break this down with a super simple analogy. You look at the weather forecast in the morning, right? It says there's a chance of rain. So what do? You grab an umbrella. That right there, that's your risk plan. It's a smart, simple, proactive step. And this is the whole point, that umbrella is completely, totally useless if you don't actually open it when it starts pouring. That simple little action of opening the umbrella, that's the response. That's the part that matters. And honestly, in project management, that's pretty much the whole game.
So this brings us to the formal name for opening the umbrella on a project. It's called the Implement Risk Response process. And really, you can just think of it as the critical bridge between having a plan and actually saving your project from a real problem.
So, what is this thing really? Well, it's pretty simple. It's the official term for putting into motion the strategies you've already designed. The key word there is already. This isn't about making things up on the fly. It's about running the play you've already practiced to protect your schedule, your budget, and hey, the quality of your final product.
Let's make this super concrete with a classic tech example. Okay, step 1, you identify a risk. Your lead developer, she's amazing, but she might leave for a new job. Step 2, you make a plan. You're going to proactively train another team member to be her backup. And then, step 3, the response is implemented. Your star developer does leave, but you don't panic. You just execute the plan. The backup developer steps right in. That smooth, seamless transition, that, my friends, is this process working perfectly.
Okay, but a plan on a piece of paper isn't enough to make any of this happen. You absolutely need clear accountability. You know the old saying, right? If everyone is responsible, then no one is responsible. So, this leads to the million-dollar question: who exactly is in charge of opening that umbrella?
And the solution is actually pretty straightforward. You assign a specific person, a designated risk owner, for every single significant threat. And look, this isn't just some fancy title on an org chart. No way. It's an active, ongoing responsibility to watch for that risk's trigger and be ready to pull the trigger on the plan.
You know, a great way to think about this is like a goalie keeper in a soccer match. When that ball comes flying towards the net, there is zero confusion about whose job it is to stop it. A risk owner is just like that. They're the goalie keeper for one specific threat to your project. When that trigger event happens, they're the one who dives in and takes action. No hesitation, no looking around to see who else will do it.
Okay, so the risk owner has stepped up, the response is in motion, we're all good, right? Project saved, time to move on? Well, not quite. The next step, and it's a huge one, is to monitor the aftermath. Because, a lot like in medicine, sometimes even the perfect treatment can have some, unexpected side effects. Yeah, because here's the thing. Sometimes your brilliant solution to one problem accidentally creates a whole new one. In project management, we call this a secondary risk, and it's exactly why you can't just put a plan into action and then just walk away.
Let me give you a perfect example. Let's say your risk is a super tight schedule, so your response is to outsource a chunk of the development work. Sounds great, right? Your schedule risk goes down, but now you've introduced a new risk. Suddenly you have communication gaps, maybe some quality control issues with that external team. So the big takeaway here is that watching the effects of your response is every bit as important as launching it in the first place.
Now, these core ideas are pretty much universal, but how you actually apply them can look totally different depending on your project management style. And that brings us to two very different playbooks for dealing with risk. So on one side, you've got the classic waterfall method. Its whole philosophy is about control and governance. If a risk means you have to change the plan, you've got to go through a formal change control process. It's very structured, and it can be pretty slow. Then, on the other side, you have Agile, which kind of welcomes uncertainty. Instead of a big formal process, an Agile team might just run something called a risk spike, which is basically a super quick, focused experiment to get an answer, fast. It's really a fundamental difference in philosophy. Rigid control versus rapid learning.
All right, let's wrap this all up. Let's bring it all back home. Why does focusing on this one specific process matter so much? Why is it so absolutely critical for pretty much any project you'll ever work on?
Because at the end of the day, a risk management plan is just a document. It's just paper. It can sit on a server somewhere collecting digital dust, and it won't do a single thing. It's the action, the moment you actually open that umbrella, that truly protects your project. You can think of this process as the living, breathing, active part of risk management.
And that really leaves us with one final thought to take away. I want you to think about your own projects, your own work. What's the plan that's just sitting in a document, waiting? What's the biggest unopened umbrella in your world that you need to be ready to use?